So I want to give you the opportunity to just sort of maybe you could tell us about your background professionally and how you got involved at ESG here at Fishbeck.
Thank you again. I have a PhD in environmental from the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. My very first job out of school was at Ford Motor Company in our corporate environmental office. I did that for 15 years. I loved every minute of it. But at that 15-year mark, I felt like I needed a new challenge. So I left Ford and started my own company, Environmental Compliance Office, ECO, ECHO for short.
Okay.
And I had a very good time founding and running ECHO. Some of our clients included General Motors, Chrysler, Nissan, Lear, and we were a tier 1 supplier to all of those companies. And we also did a significant amount of federal work. And again, I was a prime contractor for the federal clients, which included the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA,
Okay.
Veterans Affairs, Department of Defense, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, National Park Service, FAA, and there's a few more
The alphabet
in
soup.
there, absolutely. But I had a wonderful time running ECHO. And if I say so myself, it was a successful company. And in 2019, US EPA gave us the award of Outstanding Small Business of the Year. I was very honored to receive it. But again, I think there's something about the 15, 16-year mark that gets to me. I ran ECHO for 16 years, and then I was actually ready to retire. I said, okay, I'm done. I'd like to retire. And that's when I met a couple of people from Fishbeck. They took me to lunch, and I really liked them, and I liked what they said about the work culture at Fishbeck. And so when Fishbeck made me an offer, I was very happy and honored to accept. Although my husband says it's because of the lunch, and I cannot say no to a good meal. So,
There you go.
and it was such a wonderful conversation. And what they were telling me about the Fishbeck work culture really resonated with me. And 1 year into my time at Fishbeck, everything they said was true. I have not regretted my decision to join even for a minute.
Great.
It's been wonderful. It's really, really good experience.
Great. Okay. So for those of us who are unfamiliar, and I confess, when I look at and hear ESG, the different acronyms fly around. I think it could be environmental, sustainable, I don't know, greenhouse. Not really, but people
Yes.
have different ideas. So for those that are unfamiliar, can you explain what ESG is and why it's become such a significant focus for companies today?
Okay. ESG, as you so ably pointed out during our introduction, is environmental, social, and governance.
Okay.
And usually they translate into ESG reports. You also hear the term sustainability report or a climate action report, variously called same report.
Okay.
So all of those three are the same things. Earlier this year, the SEC, or the Securities Exchange Commission of the United States, passed a rule requiring all of the U.S. publicly traded companies to make financial disclosures as well as climate-related disclosures. This was a big step. And when SEC speaks, the CEOs and the boardrooms
Yes.
across the country will listen. So this rule came out early this year. But when I joined Fishbeck last year, one of the very first things I requested was that we start a dedicated ESG service line. So I talked to Kelly Piper, my boss, and floated the idea to her. And she was very open about it and asked that I write a proof of concept. So I wrote the proof of concept and gave it to Kelly. And once Kelly reviewed it and approved it, she sent it up to the leadership team.
Okay.
And they, too, were very responsive, very prompt in their review of the proof of concept. And quickly thereof, it was approved, and we launched our ESG service line. It was the perfect moment in time to launch the ESG service line because we got in front of the regulation. Because in October of last year, when we launched the ESG service line here at Fishbeck, the regulation was imminent. Everyone was talking about it, but they did not know whether it would pass or not. But it was good that we passed it because very early this year, the rule was passed, and it is required that all of the publicly traded companies in the U.S. write ESG reports, basically. And then what that does, it drives all of the large companies to have ESG reports, the GMs, the Chryslers, the Fords. But for them to write their ESG reports, they need data from their tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers.
Okay.
So they're pushing the requirements down to their suppliers. Their tier 1 suppliers, like the Lears and Continentals, are huge Fortune 500 companies in themselves, and they too are publicly traded. So they not only have to create their own ESG reports, but they have to send it down to their suppliers because they need information from them.
It's like a chain reaction.
Exactly. So now all of the companies, small and large, need ESG reports, and we at Fishbeck can help them develop their ESG programs and write the ESG reports.
Okay. So it sounds, well, it's clear that there is the impetus behind it may be the regulatory pressures.
Mm-hmm.
But is there also sort of an expectation from those big companies' clients that they are?
Absolutely. There is an expectation not just from the investors, but the big companies, small companies, from their customers, from their employees, and from their stakeholders. We are at that stage now, I think, in the world, not just in the United States, where people are looking to do business with sustainable companies. And so even those that are not required to have the ESG reports, because not all companies, the very small companies, don't really have to have an ESG report, but they're choosing to do that because it enhances their reputation, it enhances their credibility, and they want to tell their story to their employees, customers, and other stakeholders. So it's becoming something that's good to have. And not just the businesses, the cities, the counties, our state even, have climate action plans. And for the cities and counties, there's an added benefit. When they apply for federal grants, a sustainability action plan is a requirement. And in the few instances when it's not a requirement, if they have it, they get more points, which of course helps in competitive funding and grant situations. So they too want to have sustainability action plans, or again, called climate action plans. So it's not just the businesses, it's also the government entities.
And, we have a ton of government entities as clients. And so what an opportunity for us, not only to serve them, but even, as you said before, we were out in front. We had it going so that we could hit the ground running when that rule dropped or the regulation came into effect, that we kind of looked like we knew what we were doing because we were ready for it. And that's great.
We did know what we were doing.
Right? Yeah, well, of course.
Yes. But yes, we did know what we were doing, but we broadcast it to the wider world that we knew what we were doing. So you're exactly right there.
Good. All right. So let's get into the weeds, the meat of ESG. So can you break down those three focus areas? We have environmental, social, and governance. Can you explain what each one of those typically includes?
Yes. Again, there's three topics that go into environmental, social, and governance. And under environmental, it is the greenhouse gas emissions, the criteria pollutant emissions, water use optimization, energy use optimization, waste management, zero waste to landfill. These are some of the environmental topics. The social topics might include anti-harassment, diversity in the workplace, anti-discrimination, and community involvement. Those are the social type of topics. And then in corporate, we see corporate management, corporate policy, business ethics, anti-corruption. These are some of the topics that go into each one of these major topics. I guess they are the subtopics of the major topics, which is environmental, social, and governance. The important thing about an ESG program is that we can pick the topics that are most relevant to the client's business.
Oh.
So we at Fishbeck then can go into this company and see what topics and what metrics are most relevant to the success of their business and only pick those. And when we are in front of a customer and we are telling them how ESG works and what it means, as soon as I tell them that not all topics and not all metrics are required in every ESG plans, I see those walls going down, because then they become very comfortable. For example, child labor. So many companies in the United States, it does not apply to. It would apply to major corporations that are doing, business all over the world, but a very US-centric company, that wouldn't apply. So I think when clients think ESG, they're saying, hey, what all do I have to put in it? Do I have to put everything in it? How does it make me look? But when I tell them, we can help you pick the topics and metrics that are relevant to the success of your business, I see those walls going down and I see acceptance. And that's when they get really involved. And that's a very important piece of this. And I mentioned metrics because an ESG plan has goals in it. So when we go in, we establish a baseline for GHG emissions, for waste, for water. And then you can put goals in there. And those goals, those targets are also something that is picked by the client themselves. It's not driven by any regulatory requirement. So what we are doing is helping them tell their story. And when we put it like that, they're more open and accepting to having us come in and help them create an ESG program.
It's comprehensive, this ESG.
It is.
And it seems like, I like what you said about, and you actually hinted at this earlier, said something about it earlier, about telling the story. That can also, companies want to tell their story. We're always looking for ways, how do we connect with our clients? How do we let them know about who we are and what we care about? And we're not just bottom line driven or, and it seems like being able to help our clients tell the story to their clients about, their culture in their workplace. They have anti-discrimination. They're not child labor driven, we hope, right. All of those things. That's an important piece of this. And it seems like when obviously when there are these huge companies, like, forgive my ignorance on how all these different levels, tier 1 and all that, but like these big automotive, obviously they're required. But when we talk about the companies or the entities that are not required to do it, but it's still potentially something they should do or could do to enhance their standing, those barriers are a problem, because they might look into it and say, oh, I don't want to get all this data out. But if you can reframe it into, well, we can pick these metrics and we can help you tell the story the way you want it to be told. That's to me, that's a big value.
It is.
To that company. So that's phenomenal. So when you're working with a client to develop a plan, and you kind of hinted at this before about, or talked about how, we develop metrics. Can you walk us through the process of doing a plan, 10,000 foot level for my benefit? If you get too deep, I'm going to be lost.
Absolutely. The other thing we tell our clients is that we can do a holistic ESG plan, all of it, soup to nuts.
Okay.
Or we can do just discrete parts of it. So we can go in and just do a GHG inventory or greenhouse gas inventory for them. Or we could just come in and look at your waste management practices and help you divert waste away from landfills. Or we could do the entire ESG plan and program. And that too brings the barriers down. They're saying, okay, maybe I just get in and have Fishbeck do the GHG inventory at this point and then see how that goes, and then maybe have them come in and do the entire plan. So that's another barrier. After we are done telling them, you can put, the topics and metrics that are relevant to you. This is the second one. But if they do hire us to do the entire holistic ESG plan, what that would entail is first a site visit for us to go and see the facility and what they're about and what they do, and then interview not just the management, but some of the employees as well, because that gives us a feel for what the company is about. Once we do that, then we get into the data collection. So for GHG inventory, for example, we have to collect their utility bills. If they have fleet vehicles, we need fuel usage and mileage and types of vehicles. Then we get all of the data, we compile the data, And then we talk about baseline years. Do we use 2023 as your baseline year, 22, 24? Because now we're setting the baseline. Once we do all of that, then we start meeting with the relevant departments, because social and governance. Social, we are meeting with HR, maybe their diversity specialist, maybe their community involvement person. The governance, we are meeting with their CEO. We are meeting with some of the management team, because, you want to put some governance aspects in there. Once we have all of that, we'll develop the ESG program and communicate it through a well-written ESG plan that they would be proud to share with their employees and customers and stakeholders. And this document can be a printed version that they could hand out, or it could be an electronic version that is permanently on their website, or a combination thereof. But that's how an ESG program gets developed and communicated in a plan.
Okay. And as you were talking, it struck me how many different decision makers for a company that you're in front of, or that you're interacting with. Mm-hmm. And I know, with an eye towards our all-in-one, our innovative all-in, we want all clients to know we can do everything. Mm-hmm. That's an opportunity for them to learn more about us. And then for you or your team or whoever's on site there, they're kind of looking around and say, okay, this is what maybe they're having energy issues or something, and you find out about it. That's something you can come back and mention to the, whichever team is appropriate here. Mm-hmm. And then we have that. It's not a foot in the door or anything, but it's just that knowledge that'll help us market them if they're a potential client in that area. So it's just a way to kind of expand knowledge of what we can do throughout,
Absolutely.
an organization.
You are so correct, because we want to do water use optimization.
Yeah.
So here's my baseline, and I have a 10% goal. Somebody has to come help them with the ways to bring it down.
And by the way,
Fishbeck, we have a water and wastewater department. Energy use, right? We have an entire mechanical team that can go in and perform the energy audits, and then, tell them how we can lower their energy usage. We have an entire solar team to say, I want to put solar, and then we can bring them back and do that. So it's absolutely an all-in-one. And even writing an ESG report, we need marketing, for example, because for this report to look good, we can put all of the scientific information in there, but I'm looking to marketing to help me organize it properly, to put in the right pictures, put it in InDesign, and make it a publishable magazine-like document. And for that, I'm looking to Fishbeck.
Vimala.
I'm looking to Fishbeck Marketing, and I've already talked, several people in marketing to say, please help me. And when I put those proposals out, I actually put dollars in for marketing because we need their help, and I need them to be a part of the team to develop the ESG reports.
Perfect segue and shameless plug. We have marketing material. Dan, I know you can pull this stuff up. You're a wizard back there. We have, one pieces, things like this that we do, that we can take to clients. So this is just an example of how it all comes together.
And how marketing really helped me put those together. And the MMP you were...
Oh, I'm sorry, Vimala.
No, that's okay. That we were holding up. We were going to a recycling conference, and then all of the counties need to develop a materials management plan. That regulation also came up earlier this year, and we got in front of that as well, and we would like to offer these services to the counties. And we knew there would be a lot of counties at this conference. So we needed to have something, and marketing really came through for me. I gave them the material, but they turned it around very quickly. And in that entire conference of over 1,000 people, Fishbeck was the only one that had precisely the right brochure for MMP. And it was noticed by the state. It was noticed by all of the counties. I heard about it through all 3 days of the conference, how prepared Fishbeck was, and that we were the only ones that had those MMP.
That's a win-win.
I mean,
that's a good story.
It is, because it's a brand new regulation, and this tells them, the county, exactly what it is and what we Fishbeck can do. And it was nice that we could hand those out.
I know that people watching this love to hear that, because I love to hear that we were all that we were able to help you, that marketing was able to help you as a department. But then sometimes in marketing, we don't always know how that is received or how it's used. But to hear that it was such an obvious showstopper, to use a random word.
No, it was, because so many other companies had a booth. So many other companies are also vying for county businesses. And everyone had plastic doodahs to give away, which was great. But to have an MMP, in a small brochure that tells them what it is and that they can take away and who to contact. And it was remarked upon. So, I think it was a big hit.
It made an impression.
Right.
Well, we're coming to the end, but I still want to ask you a couple of things. I'd like to know about any current clients that are making use of these services. Is there anything you can tell me about there?
Yes. Fishbeck just got selected by Ingham County to develop their sustainability action plan. And that is especially exciting to me because Lansing is in Ingham County, as is MSU. So writing a sustainability action plan for Ingham County, I feel, makes a mark in all of Michigan. And we are excited to start that. We are writing a climate action plan we wrote a climate action plan for Gun Lake Tribe. And they used that climate action plan to apply for federal grants, and happy to report that they did, in fact, receive those grants. And now we are going to write a comprehensive climate action plan also for Gun Lake Tribe. And we have several industrial clients that we are writing ESG plans for.
Okay.
So, and I think I should mention that the ESG service line is good for our communities. So it makes me feel good and happy to be working on this particular service line. We have been at Fishbeck doing a stellar job at environmental compliance. We are really, bar none, top of our game, doing such a fantastic job. But now I think we will also move that into the sustainability realm and do a really, really good job at this as well.
So the future is bright.
Very much so.
Speaking of the future,
yes.
What trends do you see shaping this whole ESG thing within our company and in the ways that we provide these services, and also to our clients at large?
But all over the world, ESG has come away from just being this small, set of people being involved with it to a lot more mainstream. A lot of mainstream people are talking about sustainable, green, climate action. So it's become such a mainstream type topics that I think it will only be growing. And a lot of countries around the world are promulgating ESG rules and regulations. So that's coming out. But it's also being driven by the likes of you and me and, people on the street. The Main Street people want to see sustainable companies, and they want to know that we're doing business in an ethical fashion. Sustainability is such a cornerstone of that. So I think it will only grow and become even more mainstream and even more required. And by then, we would have become well entrenched and absolute experts in the field. So we hope all of them come to us.
And again, future is bright. Sounds
Future
like.
is very bright.
Good. Almost as bright as these lights, right?
Yes, almost as bright. And also, may I say, hot as these lights.
It's a little warm. We're working on that.
No, it's fine. It was
Okay.
fine. I'm happy to be here.
Good.
So,
Well, I'm very glad you joined us. Thank you for coming on the show. And, we had taken a little break in the summer, so it's great to have you here for the first show back. But that's all the time we have for this episode. But for now, I'm Chris Frilen. I'm alongside Vimala Anishetty. And this has been The Learning Exchange. Until next time, see ya.